Hi everyone, it's Em and Liv, and we're your Meta PsycKicks. Today we have a super special guest, and she's here to show and teach us, well not show, it's a podcast. She's here to teach us all about different divination tools. Most people know of pendulums and tarot cards, but our special guest, Julie, is all the way from Hoboken! And she's here to throw down some Ogham and some Runes and teach us all about casting, where it came from, how it works, the history, and all of that fancy schmancy
And
stuff.
she's going to give us some readings, which is super exciting.
Yeah. If you want to see some readings, she did that in our YouTube video as well. So if you don't want to just listen to us over the sound waves and you want to watch us freak out about it, go to our YouTube channel. So without further ado, it is Julie. Say hi, friend.
Hello, thank you for having me.
She's so polite. It's great.
I'm just happy to be here.
So first off, do you want to talk about the history of, what is it?
Ogham.
Ogham.
It's okay. It's spelled O-G-ham.
Yeah, so Olivia was telling me that it was Ogham for the longest time, and I'm like, I don't know which one it is.
But Gaelic is hard, and they're like the French, and they're like, what are letters? We don't need those. They're going to be included, but are you going to say them? No. And also, if you do, they're going to not actually sound how they look. So, boom.
So it's Ogham.
Yes.
Okay, you want to talk about what
Go
is
for
it
it.
and how does it work?
Yeah, definitely. And actually bringing up Ogham versus Ogham is kind of fun because Ogham is the man who supposedly brought Ogham to the people. So it's spelled a little bit differently. You have O-G-A-M versus O-G-H-A-M for Ogham. And Ogham's interesting because in a lot of other, magical practices, there's always a really good kind of origin story. And in Ogham, it's very much, this guy came down, gave us language, we were great with it, and kind of kept it around for a couple hundred years. In a historical standpoint, Ogham has been around since the Middle Ages. And one of the best examples of it you can find are actually out in stones in Ireland. And you have all these like really cool mystical stones that everyone was trying to, bring back into English. And it was very much literally, this was Joe's land. And a lot of people were a little disappointed. So really the only real life examples that you can find out in the wild are kind of marking land and territory. But there's also this book of Ballymote, which is from the 1300s. And it kind of describes the learning process in ancient Ireland, which is really fascinating. So the book of Ballymote kind of describes the historical and the practical uses of Ogham. And it kind of also represents how much of it that we've lost. So the runes that I use in my divination practices are a very small amount of Oghams that used to exist. So I think they estimated that there was about 150 of them. I used 25. So you can kind of see how much was kind of lost to history.
So do you choose which ones you have? Like do you get a pack or something and they each mean a different thing? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I do. So the 25 that I use are really the standard surviving Oghams.
Got you.
The rest, from what I understand, we don't know what they were.
Okay.
And they were also kind of used for different things. So there's something called pig Oghams, which I want to find more about. They're really fascinating, and it's more of the numeric aspect of Ogham. And I should probably mention that Ogham it's an alphabet. So it was just a way of putting language into a physical form. And obviously they would need to do that with numbers as well. So they have these pig Oghams where they used colors and some sort of symbol to count. And it was generally based on, livestock.
That's hilarious. So you're saying that like Gaelic and this Celtic languages that were used and weren't written until this guy named Ogham came in and created this sort of hieroglyphic system of language called Ogham. And they use that not only for divination tools that you guys still see today, but all around Ireland, there's just like random stones that have the Ogham engraved on them. So like, I think you were telling me there was one found in the woods, and I think it's hilarious because it's just a testament of how people have never changed. And it was like, Joseph stood here and wouldn't let Richard near him or something, and it makes me laugh. It's like the story about how there was some sort of hieroglyphic encryption on the top of a cave that was super, super high up, and they're like, that has to be really old. How did somebody get up here? Like, it has to be important. It has to be like some sort of spiritual craziness that there's a literal ruin on the top of a cave ceiling somewhere. So they finally did all of this crazy science stuff to get up there and read what the encryption was, and they ended up finding out that the only thing it said was, "This is very high."
Wow.
Exactly, yeah. And the other interesting thing about Ogham is the stones themselves, the living stones, are so hard to translate because everything is phonetically spelled because there wasn't really a foundation of it. And when people were started translating them, it appeared to be kind of a mix of Gaelic and Latin. So it almost appears that the ancient cultures are kind of seeing Greek and Latin coming in, and they wanted a way to kind of mirror that within their own language. So it is very similar to, hieroglyphics, where there isn't really an exact translation for everything.
That's cool. I think it's important to try and paint a picture of what it was like back then, because something that you pointed out to me when we talked about this before is that during this time in Ireland and Wales, Scotland, is it safe to assume those three countries are kind of where all of this came from?
Yes, the Celtic nations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Celtic nations back then, it's interesting to understand that they were seeing all of the Greek and Roman and French, Italian things that were going on in different nations, and they wanted to say, oh, these people are so sophisticated, blah, blah, blah. Let's try and mirror our own society after them, but change it up a little bit. So I think it's interesting that it was a spoken language, but they wanted to be like all fancy smancy about it, like pinkies out. And then try to take their own language and smush it with someone else's to make it their own, but also like the thing that they were trying to mirror it as. I think that's crazy. So now it's like, well, we want to have like authentic Celtic Rune Ogham things, but really it's not, because they tried to base it off of other things, which just makes it so much more confusing for archaeologists and paleontologists today.
Right. And I think the reason for that kind of smushing, as you put it, is the ancient Celts really valued education and learning. And I think they saw the Greeks and the Romans kind of excelling in that aspect, and they wanted to bring that back into their own culture. They had these monasteries, which you can kind of translate into schools, not really the monastery that you would think of today. And they actually had men and women in them, and it was really just their education system. So the first 3 years was really based on studying Ogham. I believe they estimated that you'd kind of study 50 per year, which is kind of how they come to that 150 mark. And then these people would graduate and they would be known as poets. But poet kind of doesn't equal, what we think of as poets. It's more of a scholar. So you have these well-educated people who are, valued above kings in some places. And they're using this system of written language to kind of explain everything in the world. So you can almost see the Ogham alphabet as almost a periodic table of elements. A very, very early example of that, of them just trying to figure out how to explain what's going on in the world. And I think that's a good way of looking at divination as well, where you're just trying to find answers and you're kind of using whatever tools or skills that you understand and can use to get those answers.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That was a literal poetic sentence. You're like, they tried to use words to understand and explain the world around them, which basically, you're like, they were called poets, but they were more like scholars. And it's interesting, you just explained what poets do. They use words to better describe everything around them, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make that distinction between, poets and scholars is because you will have people who are well skilled in this who are also physicians, right? So you have someone who's practicing probably alchemy, medical practices, as well as divination.
That's so cool. It makes me so excited. I had a thought and then I lost it.
Do you want to get into divination tools themselves?
Yeah, we can. So, Julie, whichever one you want to start with, go for it.
So explain what
wait.
they are and how you use them.
I remember what I wanted to say, and then I just lost it.
Again?
Oh, okay. So many people, just living in America, there's a lot of people that are like, paganism's bad. They worship weird things and blah-bitty, blah-bitty, bloop, blah-blee. But then in our society, at least as Americans or the people that founded America, white people, they're like, oh, the Greeks and the Romans are so cool, and we're going to base our whole society off of it, and they're so scholarly, and they're so worldly, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't know, like, if you're driving on the freeway somewhere, and you see a sign for somebody that had passed away, like Lance Corporal Marshal Joseph, this sign is for him. That is 100% something that Romans used to do. They used to do that in Roman cities, and we have that in America. But trying to tie in my weird tangent thought is people here and the people that drove out the Celts in Ireland so long ago were like, these people are savages. They worship so many gods. It's dumb, and they're not, smart. They were doing the same thing we were doing. They thought Greeks and Latin people were super cool. They were trying to integrate it into their culture. And honestly, if you ask me, they maybe probably did it better, because if what Julie's saying is true, and I don't doubt that it is because she's very good at doing research and she's a very eclectic and highly educated individual, that they had monasteries, quote unquote, but they allowed both men and women in it so that everybody could have a higher grip of education instead of leaving some people out. Is that way above the time of even the Greeks and Romans that they were taking those ideas from? Heck yeah. It's just crazy cool. I just don't, I wish people would understand more things. Everyone thinks that they're always so original and that all of their ideas are right, but honestly, the human existence and the human consciousness is just one giant melting pot of ideas, cultures, beliefs, societies. And I think it's awesome that you're teaching us about something that so many people probably don't know and think that it's so far out from everything else, but it's really not.
It is, yeah, it really does show how connected things are and how similarly different cultures view the world, right? Because Ogham at its base is a representation of trees and kind of the magic and understanding that we can learn from trees. And Druidism and paganism isn't the only place that worships trees. It's in the Bible, it's in the Torah, it's all over, really. It's nice. It's nice to see that.
I just felt like that should be pointed out if other people aren't making the connection. But after my soapbox, we're going to get into what the divination tools are.
Yes. So there's kind of three main divination tools. There's runes, there's tarot, and then I'm going to include Ogham in that as well. So unfortunately, I don't know a lot about runes, so I won't speak too deeply into that. But from my understanding, these are, sacred images or symbols that was given down from Odin and was specifically used for divination and speaking to the gods. Tarot is a little bit different, where it comes strictly from cards and reading cards, and the tarot deck was actually just playing cards in France, and then the French society kind of moved that into a divination tool where they were telling fortunes. And to me, it feels a little bit more lighthearted. There's a lot of, yes or no questions and answers you can use tarot with. It's very, wide world known and fairly easy to pick up the understanding and the meaning behind the cards. Ogham, as I was explaining, is a little bit different because it's not strictly a divination tool. It's not strictly a gift from the gods, right? It had historical importance within the world and the culture of the Celts, and it wasn't strictly for divination. But it was strictly a way to view and understand and describe the world. So I think that's kind of how the divination flows into it. It's just a different aspect of explaining the world. So the two main ways that I practice Ogham are with kind of a casting agent, I'll say. I have these wooden acorns, and if you watch the YouTube video, I go into explaining them and showing them a little bit as well. So there's a way to do an Ogham casting. It's called a free casting, where you take either stones or there's most likely sticks that they would use, and you would kind of throw them out. And then you would end up reading this like a tree. So Ogham is actually a vertical language, and you read it from bottom to top. And it's the same way when you read a casting. So you would start at the bottom, and that would either be the root of the question that you asked or the past. And as you work your way up, you move more into the future. And then during a free casting, anything more towards the left-hand side of your spread, is going to be kind of a more negative aspect in the reading, and everything to the right is going to be a more positive or a light aspect to the reading. I also have cards which are very similar to tarot cards. The main differences are the artwork on them. Right? So instead of having a sword or whatever card you're looking at, mine all have either trees or whatever aspect that Rune would represent, and it also has the Rune in it. And with the cards, you can, do a free casting, which is what I do in the YouTube video, or you can also do a more standard, structured reading. One of the most popular ones would be in a spread of 3, so you can do, past, present, future. 3 is actually, a magic number within Celtic faith and Druidism, and it is in many religions as well, right? You have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
It's divine oneness.
We have our little spiritual, we call him like our spiritual mascot for our business, and his name is Agya, and he's this little monk that came in probably the second or third video that we started doing. He always shows us 3s, and Em was seeing 3s for a while.
My spirit guides explained it as things happen in 3, so if you put your energy out into the universe, you will get it back 3-fold. And that's what Agya was saying. Basically, when you put the energy into like a seed or like a fruit, like a seed from a fruit, you're not going to have that one fruit anymore. It's going to give you more fruit because it's going to grow the tree that has the fruit on it. 3s.
Yes. Yeah, 3 is a good number. In Celtic Druidism, we have the mind, the body, and the spirit, and you can do a spread based on that. There's also the land, sea, and sky, which is kind of just, again, how they're viewing the world, right? They have the 3 levels. I'm sure you've heard of the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone.
Nope.
Which is one of their... Oh, that's exciting. So one of the main goddesses in Irish faith is the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone, and sometimes this is represented within one individual, and sometimes they're multiple. And disclaimer, I have been teaching myself all of the Gaelic names, so if I mispronounce it, I full-heartedly apologize. But there's Morgana, or in I believe it's Welsh, it would be Morgan Le Fay. For those of you who know Arthurian legends, she's typically the goddess of death, but she also either represents the crone in the 3 goddesses, or she can also be represented as all 3. She's a shapeshifter. I've also heard of Bridget being described in one of them as well, either the maiden or the mother. I think it's the mother. I'm like pulling all this information out of the back of my head. And it also is seen in, the moon imagery where you have the 2 crescent moons and then the full moon. A lot of people will interpret that as well as maiden, mother as the full, and then crone as the,
Does crone
dying
just mean old
moon.
Woman?
It does.
Okay,
yes.
Good.
Yeah. So you're looking at like young girl, a woman in her, fertility, motherly stage, and then crone.
So that's why they
woman.
In like slang, they're like, "You're just an old crony."
Yes.
Wow. Got it. I love words. Continue. Sorry.
That's okay. I was saying one of my other favorite, readings is just doing, the 3. Although the last time I tried to do just a 3-card reading, I had a 4th card shoot out at me, so that always doesn't work.
True story, guys. I was there.
Yes. For free casting, as I was explaining, you kind of read it in a tree, but the way that you get there is you either take all of your stones or your sticks or whatever tool you're using, or you grab as many as it feels necessary, and then you will kind of hold them and kind of add in and meditate on whatever question or idea that you want expanded on, and then you'll throw them out in front of you and cast it.
So when you say casting, you're talking about your divination tools. So like Julie has acorns that have the runes that mean certain things on them, and that's what you mean is casting them, like dice, kind of.
You throw them out, and however like they land, they kind of tell a story.
Yes, yeah. So similarly to tarot, if a card is reversed or if a symbol is reversed, that has a slightly different meaning than if it was the
It's so
side
cool.
up.
So do you have anything else to share about the different things before we get into the readings?
I do want to talk about, keeping with our theme of 3, is the 3 sacred trees in Druidism, and that'll kind of bring us into doing a reading. So the first tree I want to talk about is kind of the main man, which is the oak, and in Gaelic it would be Dor, which is the king of the woodland. It teaches wisdom and endurance, physically as well as spiritually, and it takes you behind serving into an establishment. It kind of brings you into that enlightened light, right? It brings you intelligence and information. Dor is also really important because of the wood quality. A lot of craftsmen use oak, and it's just a really good, strong wood, which is kind of why it's seen as, the king of the woodlands. And one of my favorite parts of Ogham and these interpretations are each one has kind of a riddle associated with it, or sometimes there's more than one, but I picked out my favorite ones for these three. So for oak, it is oak equals kneeling work, bright shining work. And it's kind of an interpretation that once you understand these small sayings or riddles for all of them, you kind of have a deeper understanding of what the Ogham is. And moving on from oak, we have hawthorn, which is hua, which I love to say. And this is actually a she tree, and she is the Irish word for fairies. So think of the fair folk. And one of the reasons why it's said to represent the she is because of the red and white colors of the tree, which is the colors of kind of the other world. It stands between this world and the other world, or the she world, the fairy world, however you want to refer to it. And the fun thing about she trees or fairy trees is it kind of has a culture that comes into itself. So I'm originally from a rural area in Vermont, and I grew up knowing about fairy trees. I don't know if you've heard of fairy trees or not. So they're typically trees. There's normally one tree that's left standing in a field. And it's for the fairies. So you leave the tree and then the fairies will protect your crop. And I always just loved that. And you just drive around and you see a random tree somewhere in the field. I'm like, oh, it's the fairy tree. And it's just known that you don't cut it down because it'll bring bad luck on you and your crops and your family.
Everything.
That's wild. I've always wondered why there's always just one random tree in the middle of a giant field. It's crazy.
It's for the fairies. I love the relationship between the she and normal people, because I had a conversation with one of my friends where something called them oh, it's the fairies, and they're like, oh, well, you have to give them a sacrifice or something to bring them back to your goodwill. And I threw whiskey out the window. I'm like, they're good. It's such a nonchalant relationship. And I just love that it's such little understanding of where their world is and where yours ends. It's Have you ever lost something and then had it come back a couple of weeks later? So that would be interpreted as the fairies took it to the other world and forgot to bring it back. So at night, the she come out and they'll move things around and play around with stuff, and they're little mischievous people, but it's normally well-meaning. And then sometimes they don't put things back where they should, but they'll come back and fix it eventually if you stay on their good terms. So it's the little things like that I just like looking at the world that way. I want to build a
fairy village next to a koi pond. I want to build every single building because it'd be so
That would be lovely.
Yeah, she's really excited about it.
I'm so excited. I'm going to have fish in it. I'm going to make them all out of clay. It's going to be great. And they're going to be outside and away from my house because they scared the shit out of me.
She's just going to create a fairy garden so that the fairies can live by her house. But she's also going to be scared of them.
I'm also going to be like, please do not come in my house. I built you a very 5-star hotel outside, away from me.
But they for sure will, because Tofu will be like, hey guys, you want to come inside?
My cat's a medium cat and apparently sees into the ether or some shit.
She likes to watch weird lights.
I watched this TikTok and they're saying that cats have the ability to look into the spirit realm, find dark energy, and neutralize it.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Because then maybe that's why she's seeing things. She just doesn't know how to neutralize them because she's got too much going on.
I don't know. I would like to think that's a fun thing to believe in. Why not? I heard somewhere that cats are really good to have because their purrs vibrate at the same frequency as like Ohm, and it heals your heart.
No, literally, that's what it says in the TikTok, is that they use purring to neutralize negative energy.
Oh, and then I heard that they also have like some sort of crystal, like calcite or something, in one of
their eyes.
Well, I don't think it was in their eyes. It was like in some part of their brain, which I know that is actually a thing. There are types of fish that have small magnetic deposits within certain portions of their brain or their head. And that's why fish are able to travel such long distances to spawn and know where they're going, because they literally have a compass built in physically into their head that allows them to understand where they're going, because some fish don't live very long. So how are they supposed to know how to get somewhere that they've never been before?
Right.
Because literally the world spins, and then all of these things act on the magnets in their head, and they know where to go at a certain age. So it wouldn't surprise me that cats have some sort of crystal within some part of their head too, and that may work on both a biological and metaphysical manner.
But yeah, definitely my cat would let the fairies in. Be like, oh my god, you finally brought me the best toy I've ever seen.
And they're fairies.
And they're fucking scary.
Do you buy cat toys for your cat? Oh no, she just plays with the she.
Oh yeah, she just sees fucking little fairy people around.
Sorry, we're getting off of topic. Tyrants.
As per usual.
Tyrants.
What are you talking about?
Different words mean different things. Sorry, Julie.
No, that's fine.
You started talking about fairies and we got real excited.
Yeah.
Fairies are exciting.
We should do a video on fairies. But I'm also scared, so there's that.
Yeah.
Julie will have to be there so she can protect us.
Yeah.
With my nonchalantness.
Yeah, we'll just throw whiskey at them.
You gotta do it in a nice way. I'm scared of them. Give them some coin.
So finishing up with the hawthorn, it's also a protective tree, and its little riddle is: hawthorn is a pack of wolves, terror to anyone, which I think is cheeky and fun. And the last tree that I really wanted to emphasize on is the ash, and in Gaelic it's Nian, which is connected to a magician god, and I hope I don't butcher his name, but it's Goiden, and he was a shapeshifter and a sorcerer. So he, was a transfiguration person, and kind of resonates in this tree where, it examples of that was.
It's okay. English is hard.
It is. So the tree represents being shaped by outer circumstances and is a really good manifestation tree. So you can kind of use it to meld reality into what you want it to be. Neon is also closely linked to fate, and it represents the cycles of life and how many changes come from challenges within friction and conflict, which really relates to what we were talking about in our YouTube video, and I'm sure will come up in our castings.
I'm so excited to do cards this time.
I'm more excited to do acorn.
Oh, I'm going to be real picky about what cards we pick. Real picky.
I am sure.
Gotta let them speak to me.
None of them speak to me. But in the video, you'll see that the acorns speak to live. They, vibrate.
Yeah, which is wild because I didn't think that was going to happen.
They're like crystals, but
yeah,
they're clearly not crystals. So are they made out of wood?
They're made out of oak, right?
Mm-hmm. They're
which
all
is
oak.
Important.
Yes. It is. And before we move over to doing an actual reading, I just want to read the riddle for ash. And it is: ash, a check on peace, is ash, for from it are made the spear shafts by which peace is broken. It's just so good.
Say it again. I have to mull over it.
Mm-hmm. Ash, a check on peace is ash, for it are made the spear shafts by which peace is broken.
Do you think that they could say ash as in they used to use charcoal from trees to write on things, so it's the check mark of something?
Potentially. I think it more relates to they actually physically used to make spears out of ash wood.
Yeah, no, I got that from the second part. Wild.
Mm-hmm.
I get excited about these things. Stop laughing at me. And I'm going to say wild as much as I want.
Wild.
MLA. We're going to put it on a t-shirt. Wild. She's giving me hellacious side eye.
It should be wild. And then on the back, it should be shit my medium friend says.
But actually, it's what you say, and I'm just saying it now all the time.
Well, yeah,
I edit
but
our
if you
podcast, and you say it all the
But
time.
if we just put wild on a t-shirt, no one's gonna get it.
Only the cult following will, and that's all that matters.
You gotta put wild on the front, and then shit my medium friend says on the back. Or vice versa.
Julie's so done with us. She's been so patient with us today. It's great. We owe you a lot. I'm sorry.
Technical difficulties.
No, it's great. I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to move on to readings, or do you want to chat a little bit more about the background?
Let's talk about the background, because Em has some stuff that she's told me about things. So Em, I think you kind of resonate with tarot a little bit more, right?
Yeah. Ever since I was little, I had my first reading, and then I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. So I got my first tarot deck, and it's like really little deck, and it's got really weird pictures on it. And now I'm actually trying to learn how to read the cards and the meanings and how they relate to each other and things like that.
And she made her deck do wonky things. It's the only way it works now. So Julie and I both have Irish heritage. I am Irish, Welsh, Italian, and Czech. And you are?
I am pretty split 50-50. So my dad's family is from Ireland. They eventually made it into French Canada territory. So I have a little bit of French in me as well. And then on my mom's side, I am Jewish, and it's a Russian and German
I would
Jew.
say spiritually, and this might get into like past lives, I've always been very drawn to trees. And when Julie started talking about how the Celtic religions basically worship trees to a certain extent, or it's very spiritually driven in their theology, it's wild to me, because I don't know.
You're a tree hugger?
Yeah, because I'm a tree hugger.
A tree hugger.
Well, I've always thought that trees like can speak, and they can tell stories, and they keep secrets, and they're not only protectors, but they're also givers of life. And I just think it's super wild that there's a whole religion around it. And I'm also very heavily related to the people that come from those parts of the world. So I don't know if it's people that I am necessarily connected to through heritage, or if there's a little bit more into it. Because I've always kind of wanted to go to Ireland and England, and I feel like if I go there, I'll never, ever want to leave.
Right.
I can second that it's hard to leave. I actually learned some interesting knowledge the other day where, because I was doing so much digging into this, I started digging into my family history. And I went to Ireland 6 years ago, I think now. And I loved Kilkenny and Killarney. And I didn't really understand why, but I loved it. Like, it was my favorite part of the trip. And while I was doing this research, I found out that that's where my family is from. They're from Killarney. And actually, I'm already planning my second trip back because I can stay in my ancestral's family home. They turned it into a hotel, and I'm just psyched about it. But I love that idea of just still being connected to certain areas. I think that goes
to like an epigenetic level, not so much. I think it's spiritual, but also epigenetic. And if you don't know what that is, there's a new field of scientific research that says your ancestors go through certain types of events in their lives. And on a biological aspect of it, there are things, external factors that can change your DNA physically. So like any sort of traumatic event can change the way your genes are expressed. And that's kind of like an adaptation, not so much evolution, but an adaptation at the genetic level to help deal with things. And that can also be translated through your offspring. So they're finding that certain events that people have gone through translate into their children and their children's children. So I think at an epigenetic level, our relationship to the places that we are tied to might come from there. But if it's from a spiritual level, which I think yours might be from more so than mine, with all of the people that I see standing behind you that we've talked about a little bit, it just boggles my mind that now all of a sudden you weren't raised with Celtic ideas or knowledge really at all, but somehow you're finding your way back to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I just love, and I'm feeling a little homesick at the moment, I have to admit, because it's sugaring season in Vermont. And if you don't know what that means, it's how we make maple syrup. So you tap the trees and you get the sap and then you boil it. And so I think I always grew up kind of worshiping trees in a sense, because I grew up in this maple grove that would just give me beautiful sugar water that turned into syrup and candy. And it was just so magical. And I just had such a connection to trees that it just kind of expanded
awesome.
from there.
And then on the opposite side, Emily has told me about how she thinks one portion of her past life might be integrated into her life now. And if you want to talk about that, I can say why maybe I think you're so close to tarot.
So my life can be perceived as I am very privileged, that my life is like easier because I am not struggling and things like that. So people perceive me as, you're privileged, your life must be so easy. Why are you so sad? Why are you have all this anxiety? Why is all this trauma happening to you? You should be fine. And I think that my past life, I was in a position where I was oppressed by someone in my position now. So I was oppressed by someone who was privileged to the point where I thought, in my position of being oppressed, that people with privilege don't have those emotions, that they have an easy life. And Liv was telling me she was getting the idea my past life could be from medieval times.
In medieval times is when tarot came around.
So that would be why I'm drawn towards tarot.
Yeah, I think it's something that your past life knew. So now that you're in this life again, you're like, oh, this makes sense on some weird of spiritual subconscious level. So I'm going to play around with it, because maybe at the point in time that you were alive before, you might have thought it was interesting, but it was probably a little bit harder to have tarot cards when they first came out. It was more of like a high society type party trick thing that they did in the high courts. And you were like, well, I want to have this cool thing that all of the people that are oppressing me have.
Oh my
and now
God.
you can have it.
Yeah. I don't know. Divination tools are interesting now that I've started using them, because they're not exactly what I thought they were. So essentially how a divination tool works is you put your energy into whatever tool you're using, and it manipulates the message that comes out. But what's interesting with me actually doing it, it's like my energy is already in the cards. So when I read other people, it's like it's said in my perspective, if that makes sense. Like if I knew all of these weird things about you, it's the thing that I would say to you. I don't know if that makes sense at all, even though like if you're doing divination tools, if that's your relationship with it. But that's why it's really strange to me, because it's like me talking to me.
It's interesting. I don't view it that way. I mean, you're definitely not wrong. I'm just trying to think of how to explain how I view it. For me, it's more of a out of body experience where I don't necessarily feel like I'm there.
It's because you have that field of people behind you talking to you, Julie, and eventually you'll be able to talk to them, and it's going to blow your freaking mind. Also, can we talk about the little bit of like sarcastic, what is it called? Like when something goes into something and it's sarcasm.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Want to talk about the people behind her, because you haven't said anything really about what you're seeing in the podcast.
Yeah, I can talk about the people behind
while you
Julie.
think about what you're going to say.
What is it called? It's when a thing isn't a thing. It's like an enigma, but it's not. It's a sarcastic enigma. What is a word for a sarcastic enigma?
I don't know.
All I can think of is nuance, and it's not nuance.
You're the poet, Julie. Come on. What is
God.
a sarcastic enigma?
A sarcastic mystery.
Weeshna.
Weeshna.
SpongeBob.
Best friends together. Geek.
Yes. Irony. Okay, so we're talking about divination tools where we usually that use energy and create them and turn that energy of the person that you're trying to do a reading for into something physical that people can do. So you guys are like, I have divination tools. I have Ogham. I have tarot. I am a fucking divination tool.
Yes, you are.
I think that's hilarious. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to make it about me, but I just think that's funny.
Okay, talk about the people. Divination tool. What do you see beyond Julie's whatever?
You gotta blow on me to clear my energy first. I need a Tic Tac.
Does it smell like Panera?
Oh, it was so good. I haven't had Panera in forever. Okay, so Julie and I became friends in college because we went to a school that had a lot of like jock people. And when Emily left, because so clearly she's older than me, not everyone thinks that she's like 13 and I'm 20 bazillion years old.
And lives my mom.
Yeah. And Julie and I became friends. Gosh, Emily, you're knocking everything down.
The camera went to sleep.
Stop it. This is my time, okay? The divination tool is speaking.
Yeah, well, hurry up. My tarot cards get right to the point. They don't have ADHD and tangents.
So Julie and I became friends because we went to a horse school, and I didn't really like any of the horse girls except for Em, because Em and I rode together, and she's also my wife. But we started talking. I don't even remember. We were downstairs in the common area by the television, and I just wanted to talk to you. I was like, she has red hair, it's curly. She's a horse girl. I have somewhat red hair, and it's curly, and I want to be a horse girl, but also not. And we figured out that we both loved Pirelli. And if nobody knows what Pirelli is, it is a certain type of psychological-based natural horsemanship. And it deals in more scientific ways of how to deal with animals instead of more conventional predatory ways. So I'm not going to get into that. So we became friends. And Julie is super great. And one of the reasons that I was able to get through school for so long and not like throw myself out of a window. And what were we talking about? Oh, so she's from Vermont, if you guys haven't gotten it. And now she lives in New Jersey. And it's hard because I don't get to see her anymore. We don't get to hang out. We don't get to like make curry and watch the Blues Brothers at 2:00 in the morning and do tarot cards and like, I don't know. What else did we do? A whole bunch of fun stuff. It was great. So I haven't been able to talk to her for a while. So now that she's doing all of these things and learning Ogham on her own and going and diving into the Celtic and pagan theology and culture, things like that, what she wants to finally do, which is awesome, I haven't had time to really think about it. And the way my gifts work is, Em loves to say that separation is an illusion. So everything is connected by energy. And it doesn't matter if I'm in front of somebody or not, I can still do a reading. Why is that? Because separation is an illusion. All I have to do is somehow focus my gifts to the energy of that person. But again, I'm still just a physical mortal, mere mortal normie. And it's easier if I can see somebody or at least be able to focus on their general energy to get a better insight on them metaphysically, spiritually, mediumship-wise, yada, yada, yada. So again, I haven't really been talking to Julie because she has her own life. I have my own life. But now that we're sitting here today and she was reading my Ogham, not only was I able to see her Ogham and think about it more so and understand how much, like how energetically charged these little wooden tools are, but the fact that when I'm watching Julie give me a reading and Emily a reading, she has like an entire expanse of people behind her. And it's probably the most wild thing I've ever seen. So when, for example, when I read Emily, her one aunt likes to come in. And in one of the past videos that we've talked about, my mom says that when a family member comes in and speaks on behalf of the rest of the family, we call them mouthpieces. Emily's mouthpiece is her great aunt Lil. Julie has a mouthpiece that came in the other day when we sat down to talk about how we were going to make this podcast, because I don't know anything about Ogham. I barely know anything about tarot, and it's just not Emily and I's forte, but we are your sidekicks to everything metaphysical, so we're going to go into it. And this kooky man popped up. Just the biggest kooky. Like, he looks like Albert Einstein, but also not. And I believe he's related to her physical family now. But I also saw a woman behind her. Again, in the reading that she gave me on YouTube, she said you have to learn to kind of understand your emotions or deal with them better, and you also have to work on your confidence. So even though you were sitting in front of me, this kooky guy came through. I'm like, okay, that's more of something that I'm used to. He's probably just a spirit and he wants to talk about things. But I did indeed see the woman with red hair. And I was like, well, I don't want to talk about spirit guides. If this is something Julie's going to deal with, it's going to be something that Julie's going to deal with. But what did you call? You told me the next day that there is a woman that you've been seeing with long red hair.
Yeah. So on a side note, during that conversation, Olivia had me do a reading of myself, and she's like, all right,
the kooky
my
man
mouthpiece. The kooky man, yes. He's like, oh, pull these 3 cards. I'm like, okay. So I pull the cards, and I had this card come shooting out and literally hit me in the stomach. And it's this card, and the whole reading was very much, there's a prophecy that's coming up, and it's very intertwined, and there's this very feminine force that's going to be entwined with it, and there was a lot of sun and moon balance. And I really didn't want to get into it while I was on the phone with Liv, and I'm like, all right, I'll deal with this later, kind of thing. So after I got off the phone, I did another card reading for myself and pulled the exact same cards, except for one extra one, and it was the hawthorn tree, which is one of the reasons why I brought it up, and it was, oh, I'm going to have this she presence of a protector. And immediately after that, I started having these visions of this woman. She's gorgeous. She wears, very slender built, not super tall, but a very thin-ish, attractive woman. And I had this very long vision of her, because I normally just get, snapshots and little tidbits from her. I had this very long vision where she took me for a walk through the woods. And we ended up at this cave thing. I'm not sure if it was a cave or a door, but it was some natural barrier. And she kind of sat there, and she didn't say anything. I'm thinking it was more I couldn't hear her. And ever since then, I've been kind of waiting for the next step in the saga. But yeah, yes. There's something about her.
So we have the kooky man. I believe he is directly related to the people that are in your family living now. But this woman, whether she's a spirit guide, a she, or somebody that you were involved with in a past life, I definitely believe that she's here to help you with something. And then there's this giant mass of people behind her that are kind of clouded by this gray mist. And it was interesting watching Julie give us a reading, because as she's giving a reading, and as me being a medium, I understand what it's like to get information, and it's like you can't keep up with it. It's hard. So that's why when I do readings, I write things down, because it's easier for me. Like Julie said, you get snapshots of things, thoughts, feelings, images, emotions, pictures, feelings, senses, smells. I've been getting smells lately. It's weird. And it's as if when Julie is giving a reading, and the reason I'm going on this big backstory is I never realized this, because when we were friends and we were able to see each other, I really suppressed my mediumship abilities and tried to hide them from everybody and just not embrace them at all. And now that I am, I feel like I'm able to see more of the energy around you. So as Julie was giving us a reading, not only did I notice that the Ogham had such high vibrational energy and we're almost like humming and whispering to each other, Julie gives a reading, and she'll probably do it again. And I don't mean to make you self-conscious, I'm sorry. But you were talking very slowly, as if not only were you interpreting the physical card in front of you that was manipulated by Emini's energy, but as if people are feeding you information from behind you. But for some reason, there's a disconnect. So it's almost like you're a little bit clouded because you don't know how to focus on the metaphysical energy behind you as well as the energy that's associated with those physical objects. And I don't know how to help you with that, but it blows my mind. And I'm really excited about it. I love meeting other people that have different abilities, but are also like
sensitive.
Yes, you are 100% like an intuitive, clairsentient individual. And M is also a very intuitive and clairaudient individual. And she doesn't understand how much energy she really wields, because when she focuses on it, it's like a plasma ray of freaking aura energy. And I'm like,
a wall.
I'm like, oh God.
That's why I'm around you.
Oh, I just,
so I'm like,
you make me.
Nothing will touch you. Sorry.
Yes, you make me feel so much better, though. It's great. And I don't think you understand how much you physically help me.
Yeah, I know. No, I do understand that.
Good.
Because my spirit guides have literally been training me how to do that.
It's excellent.
Because I'm like, I need to do this. I don't know how to do this. And they're like, chill out. Do this. It's easy. You do it all the time. I'm like, okay.
So, I just wanted to say that, and I'm really excited about our other reading.
Do you just get clairsentient stuff, which is clear feelings, I think it is? Like, you get emotions. Do you get, like, pictures, or do you have, like, an inner monologue? I don't think you get an inner monologue based on what you're saying.
I do. I kind of ignore it when I'm around other people because I get very distracted. But it's there. Yeah, there's a lot There's a lot.
And it's
back
crazy
there.
too, because she's saying when she sees things about other people or when she's literally just like waving behind her, that's spirit, guys. That's how I get information, is from behind me.
Yeah, and what's interesting is if I'm getting information about someone else, it's on my right side, and if it's about myself, it's on my left. And I've had times where I've connected with the person I was talking to, and whatever, it's normally in colors, whatever color they're seeing, it cloaks me, which can be a little overwhelming, but...
You're a lizard, Harry.
That's going to be on a t-shirt, too.
Can we do that? That's taken over on the internet. I don't think we can copy that.
Wait, but has it? We literally got it from some kid who named his art project "You're a Lizard, Harry," because it was a lizard.
All right, well, if it's not TM.
I don't know.
You're a lizard, Harry.
You're a lizard, Harry.
That's what we're going to tell people when they have metaphysical abilities. We're just going to stare them into the eye and go, "You're a lizard, Harry."
Avada Kedavra.
All right. So, am I going first again?
No, me. I'm going first.
Okay. We're real excited. Julie,
All
I
right.
get to do the acorns this time. For she,
You
throws
do. They're
acorns.
very
But I have
fun.
to pick them. So this will be interesting to do on camera.
You do.
Julie's
Or
gonna
not
be
on camera.
Julie's going to be the claw. Yes. The claw knows all. It makes decisions on who stays and who goes.
Dear God.
90s babies.
Wow.
I have to get it so you can see this. Hold on.
Elevator
This is
music.
gonna sound great.
John Cena. Do, 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 do.
That's not elevator music.
That is my elevator music. Don't tell me anything different.
Wow.
That good elevator music. Okay.
I'm so excited.
So it's up to you. You can, direct me. You can just say take, this chunk or
Okay,
or
I'm
whatnot.
gonna give it a good feel. I don't know. Liv says I have to turn my ego off. Let's see.
Pick me, no pick me. Pick me, no pick me.
Okay, I feel like you should grab the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 9 bottom ones that are closest to you. There's like a wing of them.
So this chunk.
Yeah, those. And let me see. The one that is
Those.
highest. I want that one too. And then there's one all the way to the left,
It's rolling
but
away.
3 over. That one's probably abundance. That one. Wait, oh,
This one?
no, not that one.
To the left.
No, next. Yeah, that. I want that one.
To the left.
That
This
one,
one?
yeah.
God,
Okay.
I'm so excited.
And then I want the second one in from the right. And then that's good.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Oh, these are.
The rest of the ones aren't talking to me. Or something, I don't know.
All right.
You gotta feel it in your tail, Emily.
I just envisioned your hand over a certain section, and that was the section.
All right. And do you have a question or something that you want answered?
Think about it.
Well, I don't know.
Why don't you just talk about your business and
Well, I want something
spiritualness?
else. Something greater.
Talk about boyfriend.
Ugh, no.
Well, what
I
else
already
else
know
is
what's
there
gonna
going
happen
on?
there. You don't have to tell me.
Her Aunt Lil keeps telling me that she's been thinking about getting married.
People keep coming up to me and are like, it's about time. It's been 10 years. Get with it. It's almost been 11 years, dear God.
She's been with her boy a long time. He's a tall giraffe, stick bug man.
Yeah, I don't know. What are common spread cast things?
A lot of people do kind of resonate with what is your relationship, information on that. You could do if there's anything concerning you in the future, job changes.
Okay, I got one. I'm thinking you can answer the question of, should I change jobs or quit jobs? Something career-based, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. Nothing else matters in my life.
Basically our business. Em hates her job right now too and wants to quit.
I'll
Just
allow you to read my trauma. Let's
Work
see.
at Starbucks like I am. Take a giant pay decrease so you can make coffee and be happy.
I live in a house, though. I need to pay my mortgage.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Let me bring these so I can read them. The one struggle is my apartment floors are not very even. So everything shifts all the time.
Patreon
around.
content. Got that?
She's yelling at the camera.
Yeah, I need to control my editing future self. Have fun editing this podcast.
Thanks. Okay, we're ready, Julie. Sorry.
All right. This is very different than your others.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot more you can say, I feel like.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, we're going to read this like a tree. So everything close to the bottom is your past or the root of the issue. And then we're going to move up this line as the trunk. And we have our branches. And you can see a lot more is falling to the right.
And
than to
right
the
is
left.
positive?
Yep. So these are going to be the negative impacts, and these are going to be the positive
Got you.
impacts. I'm going to put this down so I can...
Function. What's your conjunction? Or is it the other way? I don't know.
Oh, I just got very distracted. I'm sorry. I really
Brain's
like
trying to
Scholastic
work.
I'm parched.
Alright.
I'm about to go drink out of the chinchilla's water.
You want to pause
No,
so you can go get a water?
no, it's going to be too hard to line it up again.
Okay, well, there's water in there if you want to skadoodle for a second.
Can't stop me now.
And you wanted to focus on your
Yeah.
job, right?
I've been asking my tarot cards if I should quit my job, and they have funny things to say to me. Which is probably the same thing of what you're going to say to me, because that's all my tarot cards say. Oh, I have another question. So, when you have tarot cards, a lot of people have multiple decks because they do certain things. Would you say that your divination tools help you with certain aspects of your life?
Yes. And I do have to say, I think the cards are a lot easier to do quick readings on. The acorns are actually really nice for manifestation and kind of meditation, because you can take the ones that you feel like you need and just kind of bring them with you throughout the day. And there's actually a really long history of Ogham being used as kind of a talisman to wear. And, you know, I don't know if you've seen, there's, you know, Ogham jewelry, and that has been going on for thousands of years. So there's just so many uses for them. One of my other favorite things is I'll have my partner just like reach in the bag and pull one out, and I'll be like, "What are you feeling today?"
I need one for protection. I want to get an evil eye, but I haven't felt drawn to one yet.
Well, you
Have
need a
been looking
hawthorn.
at them?
No, they cost money. A
That'd be
hawthorn?
really cool, because I feel like that thing's drawn to you.
What is?
That her acorn. That
Hawthorn?
symbol.
I know, I got it a couple times. How do you say it in Gaelic again? Okay.
Hua.
I might need one.
You might. All right. So how I'm going to read this one is going to be a little bit different than your first. Obviously, is where, you know, I was saying normally the bottom is the past, but I'm going to say that the bottom here is
A
more.
problem.
Yes, yeah. Kind
I
of
feel like the
root
last
of-
one was like that too.
Yeah, a little bit. So the first two, and again, everything is lined up very nicely. So the bottom two, we have our reed, which I think we all know at this point means direct action. And then the second one is the silver fir, which is high views and long sight. So I think, I mean, it's very clear that you've just been reminiscing and ruminating on this thought for a while, and you kind of know that there has to be a choice at some point. That's really where I'm kind of resonating the problem is. So I don't know if there's necessarily a specific thing that's bothering you about your job, or if it's just that feeling that something needs to happen.
Essentially, it's my job triggers my trauma because I feel that I don't deserve the job because I'm a burden. Everything in my life is because I'm a burden.
No, you deserve
So,
a job.
It's like I am so deathly afraid of making mistakes that my work ethic is I need to be perfect, otherwise people are going to think I'm a burden.
No.
Which is why my spirit guides are like, once you get rid of this, then you can start actually living, because you'll stop being triggered by your trauma and stop thinking you're not good enough for things. But I think that's where the decision is. they've been telling me about this decision for a year.
And it sounds like your spirit guides are more of that high view or that long sight of giving you direction, right? It's not coming from you, but it's coming from kind of above you.
Because I didn't know I had trauma, because, again, people keep telling me that I'm so privileged. Why would I ever imagine myself having trauma?
So moving up a little bit into your future, again, very nicely paired, we have the birch and we have the beech. So the birch tree represents a new start and a new beginning. And the beech represents that old knowledge or old writing. So it seems like there's going to be something new based on something old. I don't know if there's something in your past that really resonated with you and that you can kind of start off of as kind of a jumping point.
It's our new business, which is based off of spirituality, which is all old stuff.
Yeah, I think it might be. It's also very green.
What does green mean?
Yeah.
Money.
It's very
I don't know. I'm just losing my mind. I'm really tired.
Yeah, so it's very green. And it feels good. It feels like it's going to be a good change based on something archaic.
Last year, when we decided to start this business, is when I had like a breakthrough in my spiritual development that I didn't know was happening. Essentially, I moved away from trauma because I moved away from my childhood home. I got a new job. My entire life changed. And that's when I got a new spirit guide. And she was like, let me tell you how your life is. So that's when I was like, oh my God, I have trauma and now I know how to fix it. I don't know if that makes sense to you in your reading.
It does. And moving out to the left, again on the same perfect line, we have the furze, which it's you collecting things. They're not good things though. So I'm thinking, because these are all on the same line, it's you've spent so long collecting negative energy things that you need to use this arcanic knowledge to move past that and move forward.
She's like, yes. I'm like, uh-huh. Yeah, there's
the next
a whole bunch of pieces of trauma that I'm trying to figure out why they're there, type deal.
Yeah. And I know how easy it is personally to have just collect trauma and just kind of hold it on to it because that's all you have.
Well, it's more like I just didn't know it was there because people told me it wasn't there.
or that. Yeah, so you just have to let it go. Be like Elsa.
Wow. Got your funny hat reference.
On. So moving up, again, that direct tree trunk line, there's only one here, and it is the willow, which I love this one. It's such a nice feeling. It's very blue and breezy, and it's, again, that feminine energy, that protective energy, but more of like a warm, not really a confrontational protection. And it's just going to kind of have that, you know, the warmth you get from the moon, where it's not sun warmth. Yeah, does that make any sense?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so in your future, I think after you move past this and you let go of all that negativeness that you've been holding on to, you're going to kind of come into this like moon bath of information and emotion. Which makes sense because moving up to the next level of your tree here, we have the U, which is rebirth and everlasting. So you're going to kind of move through letting go of this energy and kind of move through that moon and willow energy into something new. And that's going to go over to the apple tree, which is just sweetness and beauty. So there's something, like once you get past all this, it's going to just be like a good apple.
Yeah. The fruits of my labor.
Yeah, exactly. And right next to your apple, you have the sea, which I talked briefly about in the video, where you have this moon energy and kind of current flow within this new state that you've created, this beautiful, it's not necessarily maternal, but that like wholeness, I guess. Yeah. All right. And then the next level, you have two kind of polar opposite ohms. So we have nothing in the middle, and we only have a left and a right. And on the left, we have Ivy, which is that spiritual search of self. So again, I think it's still that transition of you're wrapping out into where you're supposed to be going. And I don't think it will be easy, but looking at the right-hand side, you have Oak. So once you get through that journey, you're going to find that stability that you're craving and that you're looking for. And the top here is Spindle, which is sweetness, delight, and intelligence. So you're going to come through this journey, find stability, and then just be good.
Sick.
Sick. Wild.
Oh, I have a new favorite divination tool. It's called Ogham. But also I like Emily's tarot cards. They're funny.
Because they're me. They're literally a Virgo talking to you.
They're just funny.
From
She
the
literally
other
is
side.
like, I like tarot cards where the cards flip out. So that's the only way my deck is going to work. And her deck's like, yep, that's the only way I work.
Because Liv tried to, like, show me up and was like, you just gotta shuffle them and then pull the ones you want from the top and the bottom and then you're good. And I did that for her and she was like, I don't relate to any of these cards. And I was like, yep. And then she did it my way and it worked. and I don't know how I programmed to be like that.
But it's hilarious.
Just is.
Okay, it's my turn. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
It is.
So tired.
All right.
So now we're doing the cards for Liv.
Yeah.
And apparently
We
she's
are
going to be
doing the
picky
cards.
about them.
I'm blowing them. Oh.
She's going to give you a good distance blow. Oh, that's inappropriate.
I'm so
can't say
surprised that came from you and not Julie, because Julie loves to say things that usually make people uncomfortable because people are immature.
I didn't start it with the intention of saying,
It's great.
of it being inappropriate. You know.
Okay, sorry. Hang on. I have to focus. Keep going.
Yes. Okay. So we can do this any way you'd like to pick the cards. I can lay them out in piles like I did for Emily. I can have you just tell me when to stop and cut the deck and pull cards that way. It's really up to you.
I'm going to do it the way Emily did it, because then I can look
Okay.
at them more individually.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I will randomly
I want the
place
top
them.
one on the first deck. I need the third card of the second deck. Ooh, and the fourth one. And the bottom one. Okay, I need the third card of the third deck. Okay, moving on. I want the first card of that deck.
This one?
Yeah. It's crazy because when I'm doing this, the left-hand side of my head lights up, and that's usually what happens when I do present things, like with my psychic abilities. I think I want the card that's poking out of the bottom on the deck that I just had you pull the top card off of. Other one. Yeah, that one that's poking out. I need from that one the card that's sticking out at the bottom. If you put your nail on it. Yes. And also the second card. I need the top card of the last deck. And also the one on the bottom. Okay. Oh, wait. Can I have that card that's right there in the middle on the top? Up a little. Yes. Okay, now I'm done.
Okay.
It's like the whole deck. Good luck. How are you going to spread them out? You just going to throw them again?
Yes. So what I did was I kind of...
The one at the very bottom needs to go at the top. Yeah, that one.
All right.
Maybe you should just have Liv place them for you. She thinks she knows better.
You can if you want.
Nope.
All right.
I got my Karen wig on. Leave me alone.
I'm the best divination tool.
I am the divination tool.
Come at me.
All right.
I'm really excited about the one that's to the very far right.
We should get you a t-shirt
In the middle.
that just says divination tool.
This one?
Be like,
I
you're
can't
such
see
a
it.
divination tool.
Here, tilt it over. Pan it over.
All right. Yes, I do have to show you your cards.
There's one going to be far to the right.
Yep.
Yeah, the one to the far right and the one to the far left. I feel like those are really important.
There's a lot of cards there, my dude.
It's because I got a lot of things, my dude. I'm important. I'm a Leo. Garar.
Spirit was telling you which ones to pick. You already know the answers to the
I feel
end
like
of the book.
Agya's here.
Og is telling you to pick the cards.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to listen to me.
What question are we trying to answer? I didn't ask you that before.
God, I put a whole bunch in there. I want to know about my love life. I want to know about my current job that I'm going to just be starting, and I also want to know about our business and a little bit about Emily.
Mm-hmm.
So just everything.
Okay.
Everything.
All right, so your baseline is Willow. All right, so we're looking at the female emotion and flowing and just kind of that sense of
ladiness.
Yes,
feminine
this is a podcast
energy.
and I'm doing very visual.
Feminine
gestures.
energy is passive.
Yes,
It's not a forward thing. That's why it's like the moon. Because the moon is not a forward being.
And this could be your kind of, I'm trying to use nice language. I feel like it's kind of like you settling with M. And I mean settle in like a good way, like a relaxed
Yeah, we're
clickingness.
trying. I think we do really good with communication, and like it's a lot to do, this whole podcast, YouTube stuff with just two people.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it's a lot harder when you're alone, though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing my YouTube channel now, and it's like 10 times harder because I don't have someone doing half of it.
Yeah.
Like, I have more work, but still, it's easier to deal with.
I feel like Emma's the sister that I never had, so I'm real excited about it.
Soul contrast.
Yeah, and I think she's a good base and a good root system for you.
I have a lot of emotional needs, and she likes to feel them.
I'm a Virgo. I psychoanalyze them.
Which is what I need.
And actually, the next card up, we have Hazel, which is intuition and kind of getting straight to the point. And again, I think this is related to M, where she's kind of giving you that grounding emotional support by doing that, right? She's giving you that straight to the sourceness.
Yeah. She is the mycorrhizal biome that my root system needs to flourish. Take that as you will. Because we're talking about trees and they make me excited.
My God.
So that's gonna your base and your root system, and then we're going to move up to your present energy level. So going straight up the trunk, we have the white poplar tree. Yes, and this is a sign of good health and I think good fortune, and it's showing you rebuilding yourself into the form that you want to be in.
Sure.
And moving out, because we have a nice 5-card line here, so I'm going to jump out and out again. So moving off of that kind of solidness that you're building for yourself, we have the elder tree, and that is on your left side. And this is one of my favorite cards because the literal description of it is just makes me so happy. And you had it last time too, I remember, because I remember saying the exact same thing. And it's the end in the beginning and the beginning in the end. And I think it again ties into that rebuilding that you're doing. Right, it's that cycle flow, and because it's on your left side, it's you kind of pushing your way through that, and it's going to be challenging for you. And I think actually your last spread had it in a very similar place, if I remember correctly. And then on your light side, we have the alder, which is going to balance out the elder nicely, because it's really your card. Because it's the oracle card. It's the protective oracle card. So I think your abilities that you have are going to help you get through that cycle that the elder tree is kind of resembling,
Mm.
right?
Because I think these abilities that I have are from a past life.
That makes
Which
sense.
is what my spirit guide, last past life lady, is trying to tell me. She's like, you've done this before. You're going to do it again. Quit doubting yourself. It's fine.
And that also makes sense because next to your elder tree on your left-hand side, you have ivy, which is that spiralness of life, right? So it's you taking your past life's gifts and knowledges and kind of bringing that back into this life. Yeah, and the opposite of that, we have the yew tree, which is rebirth and everlasting. So it's just really solidifying that fact that this isn't your first time around, and you have that kind of never-ending source of this oracle gift, right? Because we have those next to each other, and it's good. It's a very positive flow.
I love it. Makes me so excited.
And we're going to move up from there, and we have the birch tree again, which of course is the start of new beginning, and again another rebirth. So I think you're just continually changing and recreating what you need to be, if that makes sense.
Was the birch tree already in the spread of this one, or was it in my last one when we did Ogham? Is that what you mean? Or Ogham? It's not already in the spread right now, is it?
No.
Okay, it was when we did Ogham.
Individual.
Okay. Because I was like, I don't want to go through 2 rebirths. What? Sounds like a lot of work.
I feel like it might relate to your mediumship.
Oh yeah, because
mediumship is not going to stay the same.
My gifts are always changing.
Right.
Embracing it.
I think that makes more sense because it's not necessarily you're constantly changing, but it's you're never going to kind of hit your final form.
I'm never going to go Super Saiyan.
Yeah, you will when you die.
Oh my god! But I think it's more than there. You don't have a stop point, right? It's a fluid flow of knowledge, and it's not. I don't see it really being up and down. I think it's more of just continuation.
Because actually, I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, what if one day I wake up and I'm not a medium anymore? What if all of a sudden my gifts are just gone?
I don't think that's possible. I think that I think you can make it go away, but I think it'll still be there.
Okay. I'm just all messed up because there's that one girl on our TikTok that left a comment. And she was like, yeah, I just don't know about mediums because I was watching this YouTube video about how this one medium ended up just being like, or just ended up having mental issues or mental health issues, and they're not actually a medium. And I'm like, what if I wake up one day and all I have is mental health issues and I'm not a medium?
Well, there's people that come up to us and are like, I don't believe it because I don't understand why everyone doesn't have that. I think you have the ability to do that. You've just been told your whole life that you can't do it, so that's why you can't do it. It's kind of like if you're born a natural singer, you can sing right out of the womb. You don't need any help doing that. But even if you're a bad singer now, you can train yourself to become a better singer, but you're still not going to be as good as the person who is naturally gifted.
Okay.
That's why my friend who's a medium told me that she stopped seeing things because she prayed to God, which would entail faith, that she doesn't want to see things anymore. So obviously she believed that happened. That's why she stopped seeing things.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. And actually, continue looking at your cards while you were talking, and I think because this is so far up in your spread, I think these cards are being pulled because you're having these concerns. So you have birch, which is the sign of a new start or a new rebirth, and you have that next to honeysuckle, which is a secret. So I think you're concerned that you're going to have to change. And then you have the silver fir and apple corresponding on either side as well. And we briefly talked about apple with M, where it's your just inner beauty, and I think you're conflicted between really finding comfort or
is that
beauty.
Acceptance in yourself?
I think so. I think because
I feel like that would relate to both of us.
Yeah, I think it's an inner beauty and not necessarily a physical It's that, that feeling where you're very confident in yourself and you're just kind of like strutting.
Yeah.
It's that.
Okay. Can you read that spread again? That line?
Yes. So we have in the middle, we have birch, and then we have honeysuckle. So birch is, the start of something new or rebirth, and honeysuckle is a secret. So I think you're secretly concerned that you're going to have to start over.
Or it might just be that my gifts used to always be my secret.
That's how I see it too. I think it's like...
It might just be that my gifts are my secret and they're changing. Because I used to not be able to read animals until 6 months ago.
Yeah, I feel like once...
That was never just always an innate thing.
Something with the acceptance of your secret. I don't know. It's the thing that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
In all of the stuff that we put out.
Yeah.
What is the word that I'm looking for?
Embracing my mediumship?
Kind of, but there's like a thing for it. One of the chakras.
My throat chakra?
Yeah.
Speaking my truth?
Yeah, that's it.
Sankapala Shakti?
The throat chakra.
Yeah. I'm working on it.
Me too.
But
we have the same problem.
Yeah. So that's how I interpret it, is my secret is... It was always my secret. My mom's like, you can't tell other people this because they'll think you're loony.
But it is in your future. So I think maybe you'll have to come to terms with that secret in a little bit different way. Because we're also having the silver fir on the negative side, which is... I don't like this
What
card.
does the silver fir mean? I know it was in M's, I think.
So it's high views and long sight.
What does that mean?
Maybe I'll have to make a decision using foresight on how I'm going to continue to use my gifts. Because maybe it might get too overwhelming for me. My mom and I were talking about yesterday in one of our soon-to-come-out videos that it's very hard when you're a medium to have the correct barriers to protect yourself from all of the things that are around you. Because if you don't have those sort of protections, you can kind of go a little kooky. It like really starts to interfere with your life to the point where like you're just reading everybody. You can't stop. You can't stop seeing people that aren't there. You can't stop seeing things that aren't there, understanding things about people's lives to the point where it could ruin you. And I don't want to have that. And I think if I overexpend myself to a certain point, then I might get stuck in that area where I can't get out of it. And that is something that I'm going to have to personally draw the line at, of should I continue reading so many people or should I kind of taper it down a little bit, and what would be the best in the long run?
Yeah, I agree. I think this line is a warning to kind of keep that in mind. And it's important to mention that this isn't the future. This is just where your energies are lying currently.
It could also be with my relationship too. I don't know. Maybe our business will get... I think that I have insecurities about whether or not our business might get in the way of my relationship with my fiance. So that's also something else possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm just getting a lot of kind of like static with this card. But at the top, you have Hawthorn, which I think is a good sign. So I think if you keep that last line in mind, it'll be okay. Because you have the ability to set that barrier for yourself. And once you do that, I think you'll be good.
I do. I worry about getting too overwhelmed and not having a good like work-life balance. And I don't want to have to overextend myself spiritually as well as with my relationships. Because Brad, my fiance, still doesn't believe in what I do.
Yeah.
He literally said a couple weeks ago, it might have changed since then, but he lets me talk about my readings to him. But he just thinks that I have a really good like ability to read people and like somehow just understand their situation. And I honestly would wish that he would just sit in on one of my readings. I mean, not that he can hear because I use earbuds, but like Emily has sat in on some of my readings, and I feel like he might even just get a better sense of it. It's not that I need to prove what I do to him. It's just like I feel like it could possibly be.
It's a part of you, and you want him to understand it because it's a piece of you.
He's accepting of it, but I don't think he's like, I don't know. it just bothers me a little bit. So I feel like if this business continues to flourish, which I honestly think it will, and I really hope it will continue to do, I feel like it might put a point of contention on our relationship, and it bothers me. But again, I don't want to have to not be myself and possibly do something that, like, my gifts aren't just about me, it's about helping other people. So if I stop helping other people, then what am I doing? Just my own thing? Because someone else doesn't, like, possibly believe in what I do, or I don't know.
You'd also go back to the not speaking your own truth. You'd go back to hiding, which I think you need to
Which would be
get
my
past.
secret.
Yeah.
Cool. I like all of your divination tools.
I'm glad.
Okay, so I have a question. So you read them like a tree, so you read them from the trunk and then out like branches?
I do. And it kind of depends on how I'm seeing the energy flow. So this time both times I did each branch, but sometimes I'll do kind of one side and then the other side. It really depends on how I think the cards are trying to be interpreted.
Got you. And it seemed like you were reading both sides at the same time. Like
a chameleon.
Well, no, like two sides of a coin.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yeah. And especially this, actually both these cards were very symmetrical. So it was much more, this will happen, then this will happen. It was more of you have choices.
Got you.
And these are the two paths that you could go on. So it really depends on how the spread is. And that's why I like free casting so much, because it really brings so much more interpretation and meaning to the divination tools.
Got you. Anything else?
I don't think so. You're just blowing my mind, because I read so many other people that I get real excited when other people read me. I'm like, ooh, ooh, ah, ah. Next week, we are going to have my mom on, and she is, again, going to speak about different stories that she's experienced as a psychic medium. That will be on YouTube. We will also have a podcast. We are so excited and so thankful that Julie was able to come on and do not only a YouTube video to show everyone her super sick divination tools of Ogham and runes and tarot, that I forgot what I was saying. Take it away, Em.
I don't know what you were saying either.
We're just super. Thank you for being on the show, Julie.
Of course,
Is it a
thank you for
show?
having me.
Is it some sort of
It's
weird
a show.
thing?
It's like a radio show. We're broadcasting. So it's a
Podcast
show.
on our content on our channel.
If you guys want more from Julie, let us know somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, you can contact us on our website. There's literally a box that says contact us, and you can send in and be like, we love Julie, she was great, we should do more readings, we want to do a live stream with Julie, blah 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 blah.
And check out our YouTube video where you can actually see her divination tools, because they're really cool. Anyways, we'll see you guys in the next one.
We are your Meta PsycKicks.